Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Luisa Barros. I'm with Texas Materials. I'm very happy to be here to talk about mentorship. We have our last session that we had presented by the women of Asphalt. We talked about evolution of women in this industry and how things have changed over the years. And I'm very excited to say that I do believe we're moving in the right direction. So hopefully we want to continue the same path, and that's why we're bringing this mentorship topic today, and we want to have a little bit of discussion. Before I move on into it, I do want to remind that the last two webinars, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, it is in our website, Women of Asphalt Texas. So let's move on to the discussion today. We brought in three wonderful women to talk about mentorship and give us some advice and share their life and their story and how mentorship has helped them in their path and their career so far. So we hope you find this helpful and we hope you enjoy it. So let's get it started. And I first would like to introduce Natalie Sales. She's staff engineer for Westward Environmental. We also have here Lauren Durham. She's the operations manager at Performance Equipment Service. And we also have Giselle Carrasco. She's the pavement engineer and lab supervisor for TxDOT Austin District. Thank y'all ladies very much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite.
So how about we start with you giving us a little bit of, like, what was your motivation to be in this career? You know, it's definitely not a common thing for women to be in here. So I wanted you to tell me a little bit of a story and what motivated you to start and be in it. So let's start with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. My degree is in mechanical engineering, and so I've been in several different industries. I started out in the automotive industry back in the late 90s. I'm aging myself. And then I was in the oil and gas industry for quite a while as well. I got laid off from the oil and gas industry because, you know, that's very cyclical. And I live in a small town outside of San Antonio in Boerne, Texas. And several of my friends had talked to me about Westward Environmental, which is in Boerne, which is kind of crazy in that there's such a wonderful company based out of Boerne, which I thought was really neat. And Tommy Matthews, the owner of Westward, is born and raised in Boerne and has a large network of people that he knows. And so several of my friends in different aspects of my life had, why don't you go talk to Tommy? And I just was very hesitant because I've never been in this industry. And most of my coworkers are civil engineers. And so that is always very intimidating, I think, maybe especially for women. We feel maybe that we're not qualified and we don't go after it. And
which is a very unfortunate thing, but that's the truth for a lot of people.
It is very unfortunate. And so I think it kept on. It was definitely a God thing for me because people kept on, and again, in different circles recommending, and they had an open house. And so one of my current clients had told me about their open house. They had put in a brand new building for their engineering department because it had expanded so much. And I thought, okay, I'll go to this open house. And I even got dressed and was at my daughter's volleyball game. And I thought, maybe I'm not going to go. I was very nervous. But again, two of the people that I knew were like, are you going to this open house? Yes, I'm going to go. And so I walked in and it felt like home right from the beginning. One of the other senior VPs in my company is also a mechanical engineer. And he was
a connection.
Yes, Gary Nichols, and he walked right up to me. Perhaps he knew I was coming, and I don't know if he knew I was a mechanical engineer, but he walked right up to me and we spoke the whole time, and he made me feel very welcome and assured that, you know, if you're an engineer, you can do different industries and different types of engineering. And so the rest is history. I'm very, very happy there.
Awesome. That's a great story.
How long have you been there?
For 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
okay. So that's really good.
Thank you.
How about you, Lauren?
So I have more of a family nature that brought me into the industry. My father started Performance Equipment Service back in 2004. He was an equipment sales manager for Etnire, and he was selling oil distributors and basically making his way across the state in sales. Through that, he had met hundreds of people across the state. I feel like everywhere we went, even growing up, people would be like, "Are you Kelly Durham's daughter?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, wonderful," you know. And so it's kind of the natural progression for all of us to get into the industry. And so I started in 2011 alongside my brother, who was already with the company, and now my sister also. She started, I think, 5 or 6 years ago as well.
How does that go?
So-
Like getting along with family? How does that go for you?
It's good. It's
Awesome.
good. My husband actually works with me too.
Oh, wow.
so
That's a
it's
tough one.
definitely-
Family affair.
It's a family affair, no doubt. So
Awesome.
it's the biggest little industry in the world, and I
is.
love the Texas construction industry.
It is very
It's
welcoming,
just-
too.
It is. It's
And
very
I-
welcoming, especially for women.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really great year.
And I hope people can feel inspired by this conversation, because that's for sure. I think it's such a great group of networking, and I felt very welcome too. So I think we can pass that message along and bring other talented people to our industry.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Unfortunately, a year ago, we lost our dad due to COVID.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's been a tough year in that regard. But as far as my career goes, it's really been even more motivating for me
Wow.
to go out there and make my mark as a woman in the
Absolutely.
industry. And
Keep
so-
that legacy.
Yeah,
Yes, for
absolutely.
sure.
So here I am today, and it's honestly makes me really proud that I am. So
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
y'all
you
for
for-
having me. Well,
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's very, very good to hear.
Well, I'm glad to be here, so thank y'all.
How about you, Giselle?
Well, my story is a little bit different, and I'm gonna bring you back years and years back. When I was a kid, I went through. I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be a dancer, I wanted to be, all these typical careers that as a girl wants to follow. But when finally I was in college, I didn't really find my place, so I changed my major multiple times.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
And
that.
then, yes, maybe at the end of my second semester, I was well, let's try engineering. I mean, I'm good at math, and why
That
not?
was my
I mean,
path. That was me too.
I think that's the last college that I was missing from the business,
Wow.
and I went to my intro to engineering. I took my first class, and at the middle of the course, the professor actually offered me a job in the Civil Engineering Research Center, now called CTIS.
That's
which
right. I can relate to
she
that.
can relate to it.
That's amazing.
And that afternoon, I went and changed my major to civil engineering because
Wow.
I needed the job.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I see.
With no idea what
So
it
it was a
was,
necessity.
what I was getting into. So after that, I started working in the materials lab, and since then, I've been working in a materials lab. So there's nothing better than the smell of hot mix in the oven in the morning.
That's
I love it.
awesome.
And that's what I experience every day.
Smells like
And
money, huh?
Yes.
That's the way to go.
That's
Good,
wonderful.
Giselle.
Well, I'm so excited because I told you already, you're somebody that I look up to, all of you. But I can relate to a lot because when I graduated in civil engineering, and I not necessarily knew what I wanted to do, but I needed a job when I moved to U.S. And there happened to be an opportunity in materials, and I was like, I needed a job, I needed an opportunity, and I just grabbed it and did everything I could. So I can relate to it a whole lot. And I'm so happy it happened that way, too. I'm very happy because, like I said, I felt very welcome. So that's a great story y'all sharing here today. So how about we move on to mentorship? Tell me a little bit about somebody that have mentored you, and how did that relationship start? Let's go with you, Lauren.
Okay. Well, being that it's a family business, my first mentor in life, obviously, are my parents. But that even turned into the industry and the way it went for my dad. My dad was my biggest mentor all the way through. Again, the last years brought a whole lot of challenges with that because it went from him being the coach and the leader and the mentor for everybody to all eyes are on me and my sister and my
Absolutely.
brother. And so I'm glad he instilled a lot of the tools and the knowledge of leadership and mentorship to us because we're able to go on now and not only carry his legacy in the industry, but also through our staff and through our
Yeah.
own families. And so that would be my biggest mentor, really. And
Absolutely.
You have
That's
to do what would Dad do?
yeah, I do. And I ask myself that a lot.
And I
So-
imagine what a great responsibility it is, right? So-
Yeah, it is. And honestly, every decision I make and every, path that I take in this industry, I think about him and I think about
Awesome.
where he would want me to be and what he would
What
want
would
me
he
to
do too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, even stuff like this, he always wanted to pave a way, no pun intended.
Literally.
That's good. Yeah, he always wanted to pave a way, not only for my brother, but also for me and my sister. He saw so many opportunities for women in the industry. And he was always big about go to TechSAPA, go to the events, go do that.
Be
And
engaged. And,
yes, yeah, to be engaged and to meet other like-minded women who, understand the industry.
Yeah, networking is extremely important.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll talk more about it today too.
Absolutely.
How about you, Giselle?
I've been blessed to have great supervisors that became my mentors, right? And I can just mention one, Dr. Sohail Nasserian,
Yeah.
Dale Wren, I don't want to miss anybody, Mike Arellano, Robert Lee, Ben Englehart. They not only taught me materials, payments, construction, they also believed in me,
Yeah.
right? And they challenged me
That's
to
right.
to be now be a lead worker, now be a supervisor, right? And they believed in me, and that really helps, having this amazing people that know everything about the industry and be mentored by them. But also, I have learned that, yeah, if you're a supervisor, you have to be a mentor, right? To have a successful team. But also
And a
sometimes,
succession plan too, right?
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
need that.
yes,
So we need to
But-
prepare the young talent.
but sometimes not all your mentors are your supervisors.
That's true. Yeah.
So when I started working at the lab and at Flexible Payments at TechStat, my first job at TechStat, we had the technicians with all the experience, Byron Kneifel, Mark Crawford, that I was in the lab 100%, I just a graduated student, and they taught me everything that you needed to know about hot mix testing. And
Awesome.
I mean, that was so fulfilling, and our inspectors, our technicians have so much experience
Yeah.
that we need to get those resources too.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And ask questions and
Yeah,
you know,
learn from the
that's-
people doing the work, right?
Yes.
That's very
Exactly.
important. And
Absolutely.
motivate them to be successful on their own path. That's
Yeah.
very, very important. And, I noticed you mentioned a lot of men names as mentors, and I'm glad to say that it's very important. Obviously, there are not a lot of women representing this industry right now. And I'm happy to say that we have a lot of allies out there and people that are going to be behind us and fight for us. And I think at the end of the day, mentorship is not only about telling you what to do and how to do it, but it's having that person literally fighting for you and is
Yeah.
speaking about you
Yeah.
when you're not around, speaking about you
Absolutely.
in places that you can't necessarily be. That's very important because, telling what to do is good, but that's not the only thing to make us successful, right? So great point there. I'm glad you brought that up. How about
That's good.
you?
Yes. Well, that's a great segue if there is such a thing. I when I was thinking about preparing my answers, I have my boss, my direct boss is a male, and then also a female in my office. But my boss, his name is Kurt Campbell. He has been a wonderful mentor to me. Again, I started in this industry. I had not ever been in the industry before when I started at Westward 5 years ago, and I was very intimidated.
Yeah.
It was very
yeah.
intimidating. I had been, laid off for a year and a half, so that gets kind of under your skin a little bit,
Yeah.
and all of the things. And my daughters were growing up, and I was in a place where I could work full time, and it was all very intimidating. And so I started out. He is an amazing mentor in the fact that he does exactly what you said. He puts, your name and other
Yeah.
females out in the front, and he almost we tease him sometimes because if there is going to be a male prospect and a female prospect in front of him and they have equal qualifications, he will pick the female every time, mostly, which is so smart of him. He knows that it will be such a good, what we bring to the table is something that we need in his office and working with him. He knows he brings the male perspective, and that has obviously its own wonderful aspects to it, but he needs a female perspective in a lot of the things that we do every day, and he recognizes that. His mom is a professor, and I think she has led her family in a way that they reckon. His sister is awesome and very successful in her own right, so I think he was raised in an environment
Already
where
around it,
women
yes.
were out there and professionals and doing a great job bringing that to the table. And so his famous quote that he always gave me my first years where I was struggling a little bit in CAD because I hadn't had it since I was in college. I would really
And it
struggle
keeps updating
sometimes.
too and making it harder.
There's always new things to learn. And so whenever I was struggling and coming to him, and I would be very defeated, and he would always, his line always is, the only one who doesn't believe that you can do this is you.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it was such a good quote.
It's
and then,
such powerful too,
it
right?
does.
It's such a power.
It is so powerful. And I thought that was so good because I eventually got to the point where I do believe, and that's important. You know, like I feel very confident when I go to work every day, and I know I can do my job. And I also know if I have questions, there are people that have been in the industry way longer than I
that you can rely
that
on.
I can rely on to answer me. But he empowered me to, you know, we know you can do this, so you just need to get on board. And I love that.
It's crazy sometimes how one sentence, one phrase, one little thing that somebody tells you can make such an impact in their life, right? So it's a champion. It's definitely a great leader, because that is what it takes. Sometimes it's an encouragement, a word of encouragement that, hey, you don't believe on you, but I'm here and I got you, right? I got your back. So that's such a great story. Thank you for that.
That is great.
So how about we go on now let's talk about a little bit greatest leadership or mentorship lesson that you would like to share to the group today. Let's go with you, Giselle.
Sure. I have learned that every person is just different, right? And as a woman, we're sort of complicated.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And, you know,
Sometimes we don't even understand ourselves, right?
myself sometimes.
That's right.
I don't know what y'all are talking about.
I should be happy.
I feel you.
I think to be a successful mentor, you need to know that person. You need to listen, be an active listener,
Yeah.
and understand where the background, their career, where they want to go.
Yes.
Because the goal is not to create a mini me,
Yes.
right?
True.
It's to create the best career
Version
for
of-
that person.
Yes.
And we all have different
Weights.
plans, different talents, and it's just finding those talents. So you have to create a relationship with that people, with that mentee, and just direct them and be the cheerleader, right? And the only thing
That's a
that
good
we
way to
have
put
is
it.
our own experiences, and just share it with them. You know, I understand this is not easy.
That's right.
There's a lot of competition. We sometimes, as a woman, we feel we have to prove ourselves twice.
Yeah.
but
3 times harder, right?
it's sometimes so internal.
Yes,
it's not
it's
really
self-inflicted
like
a lot
that.
of times. Yes,
Right.
that's
so
right.
it's just having that conversation, like you just said. One sentence may make a bigger difference
That's
than
right.
me just telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with
good.
that.
Yeah.
That is very true. And I like the point that you bring up, because I live by that in terms of nobody's ever equal. You can't really be comparing yourself to other people's success, right? We all have different strengths and different challenges, and you can't really be beating yourself because you didn't do good at this or didn't do good at that. I think at the end of the day, we bring different things to the table, so we need to have that self-love too and compassion to ourselves as well. So that's very important. Natalie, what is the?
Well, my answer is very similar to yours. I always say just to know someone's why, and you really have to start with that. Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
What motivates you? What drives you? What is your journey? Because everybody's story is different. And I love that you asked us. You know, what brought you to this industry? What brought you here? And sometimes I think we just cut right to work. You know, like let's just go and I think if you take the time, if you're in that relationship,
That's
and you
right.
take the time to ask the questions, what brought you here? Why are you here? What motivates you? And I do a lot of the Enneagram and love languages. I don't know if you guys have heard all about that, but that is so interesting when you really know someone.
Yeah.
When you
To
dive
know-
a little deeper.
Dive a little
Understand
deeper.
about their story, like you said,
For
right?
certain, and then not that you can go around mentoring everyone different, but kind of if you want the best out of them and you want what's best for your company
And what works for one not necessarily is going to work for
it
the
will
other.
not. Mine is 100% encouragement and words of affirmation, and so it's important even for me to tell my boss that, because he needs to know words are very important to me. And so if you want the best out of me, please make sure you know, and I always say, like, don't tell my boss, but I don't really need a raise. I just really need the affirmation.
Yeah.
The
On the
thank
back,
you.
yeah.
And I see you. You're doing, that's really important, I think, for people. whereas in someone else, it might be, words might not
Different,
do
yeah.
anything, and
Yeah.
it might be the bottom line or whatever it is, but just to know that about each individual, I think is super important.
That's right. I 100% agree with you. We need to do a better job, and I get it. We're all busy. We all have responsibility and things to do. But we need to take the time to understand the people that we're managing, the people that we're supervising and mentoring. Because at the end of the day, you know, their story is going to define how they are and who they are. So it's very important that we take the time to listen and ask questions. What are you looking for? Or what are you needing from me? I think it's very important. And in a relationship, like the mentorship, it's also for me not something that you don't go around asking for, do you want to be my mentor, right?
Yeah.
It's a natural relationship. And
Absolutely.
relationship to me starts from asking questions, getting to know somebody. Let's get ourselves out there, and that's another thing that being part of Women of Asphalt, we get to learn and to meet other great people that can inspire you, and hopefully we can do that win-win relationship, because I think it's not only mentor-mentee, it's also mentor-mentor as well. So.
Absolutely. I think it's just the style of mentorship is really holistic. You have to be able to take an individual and look at their entire life, not just what you're doing at work, but you want these people that you work with every day. And in my role as an operations manager, I'm working with my staff, which is mostly men,
Yep.
you know, day in and day out. I get to the point that half the time I know their sleep schedules, which is really weird, but you know, we're working all hours of the night and I'm like, oh, he's sleeping or he's this or
You
whatever
gotta
it may be.
Keep
but
up that in mind, yeah,
yeah,
that's for sure.
and so it's just you really want them to succeed on a level of everything. You want them to be the best father that they can be.
That's
the best,
true.
You know, you want them to take care of their finances. And sometimes you care so much to a fault, you know, and sometimes it burns you a little bit.
Yeah.
I've had a few people burn me, but you know, you care about them holistically.
And you
want
learn
their
from it, too.
You do learn from it. But you care about their life and you just want the best for them.
That's
as
right.
a mentor. You know, you look at it, their whole life, and you just want the best in every area for them.
Yeah.
And so.
That's very true. And I think that's a great difference. There's a lot of different terms, coach, mentor, champions, right? And are they interchangeable or not? But I think that's the greatest aspect of what you're saying is you being, whatever word you decide to go with, is you want to see that person succeed.
Yep.
You're not only there to check mark a box, right? You want to make sure that you are truly meaning what you're saying, and you want that person to be successful. So that's very important, and I'm glad you think it that way.
Yeah, it is important to me. And, you know, I've worked with a lot of my staff for many years, and so it's been really nice to be able to watch them grow. You know,
Absolutely.
probably just as much as my father watched us grow.
Yeah.
And so.
And that brings so much joy, right?
Yeah,
when you see
it does.
somebody
It does.
getting a path, and you're like, yeah, number one, like it's like, oh, I have been there, and I understand what you're going through. But also, when you see it happen, and they're celebrating, and you celebrate along,
you're
that's
cheering them on
that
all
is
the
so
way
wonderful.
through. And
Yeah.
so.
So how about, let's talk a little bit about mentoring people that are older than you. Have you ladies experienced that? And what do you have to talk about and comment on that? How about you, Natalie?
That is a very interesting question, and it was a struggle for certain that came back to me like that fast when you asked the question. So right out of college, I was 22, super young, and I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I actually ended up working in Matamoros, Mexico. I had never been to Texas before, let alone Mexico, didn't speak a word of Spanish. I think that my company placed me down there because I was just one of the ones that was up for, I want to see the world, I want to go experience life, I want to do new things. And
You go, girl.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And I learned to speak Spanish very quickly.
Awesome.
I had a great group. I actually worked in an R&D lab, and so that was super cool and got to know all those guys really well.
Wonderful.
Well, within, I would say, 5 years or so, one of the suppliers of the maquiladoras, which is a U.S.-owned company in Mexico, recruited me to work just right across the border on the U.S. side. And that should have been a red flag for me because the one who recruited me was from Ohio, and he was one of my references. I had known him all of my life, and so he wanted me there, but he placed me in a plant where they didn't necessarily want me there, right? So I went, what I had done for I don't know if you're familiar with QS 9000, ISO 9000, those certifications.
No.
It's very important for the automotive industry and quality, and the big three want all the companies to have their certification. So I had done that for a large facility in Mexico, so the small facility across wanted me to, get them their certification. Great. I took the job a little bit, maybe sight unseen and a little bit naive. And the plant manager that worked there was, I'm going to just say it to you ladies, like a crabby old man that I think lived and breathed work. We were talking about that. He had no work-life balance, chain smoked cigarettes all day, every day, with coffee in one hand and a cigarette in the other.
Probably
And
haven't been around many women a whole lot in his
perhaps
career.
not,
Probably.
perhaps not. And it was a little bit smaller of a facility. Yeah, the only other female was the receptionist. And so in comes this at the time I was probably 25, 26-year-old that was going to have to tell him what to do.
Yeah.
So it's a very not ideal situation.
Yeah.
So I had to tread really lightly, right? So I had worked there for quite some time and really tried slowly but surely to implement some of the things that because they gave me a year. I had a year deadline to get them their certification. So there was one time in particular where he was not pleased with some of the things that I was asking them to do, but I was like, I'm very black and white. We're engineers, right? So it's just like this or this. And I was like, this is what the standard says, and if you want the certification, which your customers are asking you to get, you have to do it. You don't have any choice. But he had lots of choice words and, not such great things to say at the time. And I just took a beat and took a deep breath. And I'm like, when you're ready to talk about this again, we'll get back to it. And the guys in the tool and die shop never had any problem. They were all great and very
it happens.
helpful and kind. So he did, come around for sure. And we got our certification with flying colors. We passed.
Good.
And the part where I think it got eventually where we had a good working relationship and a good, I don't know if I would say mentor-mentee, but with someone older than me that, I had to teach something to.
Yeah.
After years later, he ended up moving on to another company and he recruited me. And
There
asked
you go.
me to do something. So I know that at the
Like,
end of the day,
You know,
it was like, I see you, and I know that we needed to get this done. He
Yeah,
made
it
harder
takes.
than
I
us.
feel like it takes some time to build the
Yes.
trust, and that's where I feel. When we talk about, we got to do twice, 3 times harder. But once that trust exists, you have a great relationship, friendship, and a true ally. An ally on your
a champion, like you said
there we
earlier,
go.
right?
So that's a great story. That's
Yes.
very, very awesome.
There-
Lauren.
Yeah, I think just through the industry as a whole, we basically have mutual mentorship. Any of the older people I've ever come across, it's not just that they're the old dog and I'm mentoring them. There's always something to learn,
Yeah.
always,
Absolutely.
coming from whoever you
It
may
never
be working
ends.
with. Yeah, it never
Yeah.
ends. And honestly, I think that's the first piece of mentorship is to have that attitude that it's okay to continuously learn and continuously develop
And to
yourself.
admit that, hey, I may not have all the answers
Yeah.
all the time, but I have great people that I can
that
reach
I
out
can
to.
rely on. That's right.
true.
And I think that not only with women into the industry, but also with technology. A lot of the older generation, they are not as technologically advanced as what people that are coming in are.
Yeah.
And I think that also kind of creates a void. And going back to the mutual mentorship, it allows you to really work together to come up with a plan,
And a
with the
solution.
people, a solution. And that alone, just working together can advance any situation, really. So
I like that. Maybe you had your dad, his perspective, and maybe when you look to people that are older than you, that you have to work with, you can see your dad in them, and then you have a
that's
different
exactly
perspective
it.
towards
My
them.
dad and I bumped heads a few times,
Yeah.
but we always came out on top at the
Sure,
end.
that's good.
That's the important
But it was
part,
it was
right?
important.
Yeah.
It was important, and so just being flexible enough.
Absolutely.
And, be willing to take a step down and take knowledge from both.
That's good.
And so
I like the word open-minded, right? We need to be open-minded
we
about
do be
things.
open-minded.
For certain.
That's that and communication will definitely
Oh,
be
yeah.
one of the things or two of the things that can hinder any situation. And so I just think using the situations where you have an older person that you may be mentoring, you just have to look at it as more of a mutual mentorship
Absolutely. Yeah.
versus just one way.
Trust,
So,
communication, all that very great
absolutely.
things. Have you ever mentored and managed, supervised anybody older than you?
Yes, when I got the opportunity to come to the Austin district, there was an engineer that had more years of experience than me, but he just got his license, so he was in a new transition, right, to a different task, and I come new as a new supervisor, and we had to learn together, right?
Mhm.
I was his supervisor,
mutual.
but just making him, have that conversation, making him feel that I want to learn from you too,
Yeah.
right? Tell me,
It's
your
two-way street.
experience, and let's go and let's find training for both
Yeah.
of us,
Okay.
Yeah.
right? It's making it like a team.
Yeah.
We're
Collaboration.
together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see where
That's
you're
right.
struggling, and respect. I think
Yes.
respect doesn't matter how old you are,
Absolutely.
your background, your race,
It
you're
goes a
female,
long
you're
ways.
a male. If we
At
have
the end of the day, we're
respect,
human, right? No
Yep.
matter
Yeah.
your
No matter
gender, no matter nothing.
and,
So.
and the majority of the people, they just want to be successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we're together in this
Yeah.
process. So let's
Together
make it-
better.
Yeah.
Same end game.
Absolutely. No,
Yes.
collaboration is a key
It's awesome.
factor. All right, ladies, how about we go around? The last question I have is let's go and tell a little bit about, since this is Women of Asphalt, tell me a little bit about a women that have inspired you, and that can go either professionally or personal life. Let's start with you, Lauren.
Oh gosh. I have a slew of strong women in my life.
All right.
Obviously starts with my mother. Watching her the last year go through what she's gone
Oh,
through
yeah.
has really been amazing.
It shows really how strong she is, right?
Yeah. Honestly, sometimes, just looking at all of us women in the family, I sometimes feel bad for my husband and my brother because they're the only guys. I'm like, I'm so sorry y'all have to
So
deal with
much
all of
going
us.
on around
Yeah.
here.
That's hilarious.
But we just have a great. My mom is probably the one person I could look at, but my mother-in-law also is. She works in metal recycling, so she's also in construction, and so not necessarily the asphalt world, but she is in construction, and so watching her in her career, I mean, she's made a great career for herself, and so watching her as well has been really good.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother too, y'all. I will tell you
Oh,
what,
my
she is a
God.
strong woman and nothing engineer about her, but she's definitely determined and shaped me in who I am in terms of go get it and be a hard worker and be
No
honest.
limits.
That's the one thing that she always taught me. So, how about you, Giselle?
Well, I'm gonna I have to say my mom too. and my
The mamas are
sister,
unmatched.
Right,
Yeah, it's-
right. My mom also is she's always been the strong
The
person
rock
at home
and-
because she had to stay with 4 kids at home while my dad was working. We also just lost my dad, so she's
I'm
been
sorry.
so strong.
It's amazing, isn't it? To watch them, it really is.
To my sister, to my brothers, when I was changing my major, she was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Yes. Okay, go
And
for it.
support it,
You know?
right? That's
Yes.
the beauty
Go
of
for
it.
it. She again.
The
she-
support from a mom, there's no words to describe that.
So we're the first generation that actually got a degree thanks to
Wonderful.
them.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We're
Wonderful.
an immigrant
Yes.
family. We came here when I was 15 years
Wow.
old, so we had to learn a new language. But the fact that we were going to go and continue our education was a never question.
Yes.
You decide your career, you decide your path.
Wonderful.
We're here to support you, but
You're going to college.
you're gonna keep going, right? You're gonna
Yes.
keep going, and
Yes.
and that's something that I see her and I'm like, man, where did she get all this?
I just
it's
hope I can be
enough,
as
but-
good of a mother as she is, right? I think
that
that's
now
kind
is
of
my goal. I've got 2 daughters, and I just pray that I can be that mom. I pray that they can look
Yes.
at me and know that there's a path for them, whatever they choose. So
You're doing it.
very, very important. So
And I
Yes.
just want to add, I mean, it's this type of event, this it helps a lot. I mean,
Yes.
my experience, I
Good.
haven't had a female supervisor, and
Yeah.
when I was,
Yeah, all
preparing for
all
this,
your
I'm like,
mentors were men on your
Yes.
list.
But I have worked with amazing engineers,
Yeah.
female engineers, that even though they're not supervising you, they have your back.
Yeah.
And they give you a
That's
call,
great.
hey, how you doing?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
hey,
Check up and see how things are going.
Yes, so we need to keep doing that.
I
Good.
agree.
Thank you very much for saying that. And I hope as being part and members of Women of Asphalt, that's one thing we can deliver is we're here for you. And if you have any questions, if you need somebody to talk to or to advocate for you and talk about you, right, we have a great networking and people in different areas, not only engineering, but running a business and admin and doing a lot of other things. So just reach out and let's learn from one another and help one another. That's for sure. Thank you for bringing that up. How about you?
Well, you guys have set me up with great segues for sure. So my if she ever watches this, I want to make sure that I mentioned my mom for certain. She was exactly like your mom, like, doesn't matter, but you're going to graduate and you're going to use your degree for sure.
Yeah.
But I do have which is amazing. I have a female mentor at my job now,
Awesome.
which has not been the case. I think, again, I'm a lot older than y'all. And so growing up in whatever industry, being any kind of STEM job, I just didn't have a lot of opportunities where I could know any females, let alone in
To
any
reach
type
out,
of
yeah.
role. So we had to pave the way for
Figure it
ourselves.
out, yeah.
I was the only one.
Yeah.
So now it's so great, and I work for such an incredible company. But Melissa Fitz is the only other VP in our company, and she is a female. So she works in the other. We have air and engineering, so she works in the other segment of business than I do. But it's been so great for me to see her. She's raising 2 children. She has a wonderful husband who also has a career, and she's doing it. You know what I mean? She's doing the dues, and she's making it all work. She is very confident,
That's wonderful.
fiercely competitive, and also wicked smart. And I think sometimes I start to try to maybe I dial down my femininity a little bit because I'm around. I don't know if you all ever feel like that.
I think we all go through that. I think we all
I
can
go
relate.
to work, and wear a button-up shirt
Yep.
and my hair in a ponytail, and I don't look like this because I knew I was going to be
No,
around you
makeup.
guys. So I dress like always, I'm going to dress up for you. But I love that she rocks all aspects of her. She is a woman, hear me roar,
Awesome.
but also she's a badass. So
That's
she has to go
wonderful.
to public notice a lot of times, and it's very emotional, like when the public's involved, right? So there
Yeah.
will be community members that come up and get very emotional about
Mm-hmm.
it. And I know I would never, and I shouldn't say that, never say never.
Never say
but
never.
in my nature, I think I'd have a hard time doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
she is so put together and so
Awesome.
confident. And it is, again, we're all STEM, so it's like math and science, she lets it speak for itself. She
Yeah.
takes the emotion out of it, and it's just like, this is the data, and we're always going to go back to the data.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's incredible. And I've just watched her, and she's very young also. And so it makes me very happy and proud and motivated and inspired to see another female
Yeah.
in this role. And she also is a mom. She also is a woman.
Rock
and
it all,
She's also
and-
a
Yeah.
wife, and she's doing
She
it all.
does.
And there, it's kind of the unspoken for women in the
Yeah.
industry. They forget that we are mothers. We are.
We
you
have
know,
all the other
wives. We are. There's so
responsibilities.
many other.
Our job starts when we get home
It does.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It starts again.
It
Starts again.
does, and not to discredit
It's
all
a
the
lot of
dads
roles.
out
We
there,
put a lot of
because-
hats, that's for
Yes,
sure.
yeah, we do, and not to discredit the men or the husbands. My husband's very helpful,
Yes.
thankfully.
Takes a village.
It does take
Yeah.
a village, and so but
Takes different
sometimes you
skills,
just need
too.
your mama,
Yes.
and sometimes for the kids, that's how it is. You just need your mama,
Yes.
and so
And
lots
sometimes
of
they're the
hats.
only ones who will really understand. That's why this is so powerful as well. And I love it. Just makes you keep on trucking on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll add real quick, I think it's really great having that role model and people that you can look up to and seeing women that are examples in their career too, right? I did supervise a couple women, and one time they were interviewed during the Week of Women in Construction, and I remember one of the comments was, my boss or my supervisor is a woman, and every time I look at her doing things and leading the team and keeping us motivated, it's like a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like I can be that person
Yes.
one day.
Yes.
So that's such a great thing, and I'm happy that we're here. Hopefully we can inspire other people and bring new talent. And we have, it's a tough time right now. We need people in our industry, and we need to tell our stories better. So thank you all very much for being here
Thank
today.
you.
We really, really appreciate your time and your effort to make this a success. And for all the listeners and everybody watching this, I hope you felt inspired. I hope you got a lot of things out of this, and we appreciate everybody's time and effort and support with the Women of Asphalt. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.